and welcome to Pico Rivera, California at Psycho Turtle Collectibles for our very first League Cup of the season, our very first tournament of Regulation H, and an absolutely stacked lineup here. 48 trainers here today. We have World's top 8 players, plenty of World's competitors in general, and everybody trying to learn this new format. Just a week into it, we have Richard Salazar and Felix de la Riva here in our round 1 matchup. We have 6 rounds of Swiss, so it's going to be pretty competitive all day. For Richard, he has the Golden Go, Rillaboom, Whimsicott, the Cantonian Weezing, Incineroar, and Ursaluna Bloodmoon. On Felix's side, it is the Tyranitar, Lycanroc, Garchomp, Electros, Ninetales, and Charizard. So on Richard's side, we've got a lot of the staples, it looks like, of this early metagame so far. Of course, you have the Incineroar and the Rillaboom, both great Pokemon on their own. Ursaluna Bloodmoon, pretty easy to slot into a lot of different types of teams. You can play around with its speed a little bit, play it in Trick Room, play it in Tailwind. You can do a lot with it. Golden Go, obviously, a great Pokemon. Interesting to see the Cantonian Weezing. Of course, that neutralizing gas is going to be very meaningful, especially if you bring it out turn 1 against 2 Weathermons on Felix's side, both the Sandstream on the Tyranitar and the Drought on the Ninetales. It's going to be that Sun lead with the Ninetales and the Charizard. Ninetales has Choice Scarf, so it's very fast. But that Sun is not going up because of the neutralizing gas. Incineroar does have the Ability Shield, so it still gets the Intimidate off. But the Drought does not go up, and that means that Charizard's Solar Power isn't going to do anything at all. We'll see how Felix wants to play this out. Both of these Pokemon are Terra Ghosts, so either of them could go immune to the Fake Out here if they want to. We'll have to see how much Felix wants to preserve this lead here. What is the answer to this to this Weezing for this team? It's a really tough matchup just because of the neutralizing gas shutting down those weather abilities. Weather will immediately go up as soon as Weezing switches out or gets knocked out. Ninetales goes for the Heat Wave. It's just going to connect onto the Incineroar after the Protect. Pretty much just does basically nothing at all. Charizard with the Heat Wave as well. This Charizard has Heat Wave, Protect, Solar Beam, and Iron Tail? With Choice Specs. This is a very interesting setup here. Incineroar knocks off onto the Ninetales, actually, not going for the Fake Out. I feel like that's a good call. But a very interesting Charizard set. I'm surprised not to see the... Scorching Sands, and would have come in useful there. The Heat Wave barely does not pick up the knockout on the Weezing, and that means it's going to be able to launch a Sludge Bomb. Takes out the Ninetales with a critical hit. Not sure if that was necessary, but regardless, gets the Ninetales out of the way, and that means that weather is not going to go up even if Weezing drops. Garchomp's now going to take the field. Makes sense as the last Pokemon on a non-sand setup. The Garchomp and the most likely Electros, if I had to guess. Just share. Very difficult. In any case, this Garchomp has Clear Amulet, Earthquake, Iron Head, and Dragon Claw as its attacking moves, plus Protect. Weezing's going to Protect another turn just to keep it around for one extra turn. Garchomp is able to get super effective damage on both these Pokemon. Remember, that is a neutralizing gas Weezing. Ain't gonna levitate here. And it's going to drop the Incineroar. Probably fine. Not going to do too much anyways. The Electros is very much a special attacker, and everything had pretty good damage onto the Incineroar. Onto the Incineroar. Rillaboom's gonna switch in now. Remember, not going to get that grassy terrain up on account of the neutralizing gas. Although it also means that the rough skin won't affect it if it goes for a quick fake out onto the Garchomp. Weezing has been lingering around quite a while, but I don't think it's that advantageous for Richard to keep it in here. And the question here is how Richard is going to close out this battle. Already has gotten some pretty nice advantages, got the sun out of the way, but can you actually make the best of the end of this? You do still have a lot of Pokemon in kind of low HP. Neutralizing Gas wears off, so we will get the Grassy Surge going up now. So we'll boost the damage of Rillaboom's moves, which will help out, or the grass moves at least. And we see the Ursaluna is the last Pokemon there. Very big bear. Haven't seen it too much in a little bit. We saw it. Reg G, but definitely one of the key threats in Regulation H. Rillaboom's going to go for the Terastal into the fire type. It's going to make it pretty resistant to anything Charizard's going to throw out. But we'll still struggle a little bit against that Garchomp. Charizard's going to go for the Terra Ghost, going to avoid the Fake Out. Could be a pretty dicey call, actually, for Felix, depending on what the Rillaboom decides to go for. Garchomp's just going to protect. And Rillaboom went for the Wood Hammer into the Garchomp, really went for it all there, and not going to pick up anything out of it. Charizard gets the Heat Wave off. About half of the HP of Ursaluna, remember, that's a pretty specially frail Pokemon. It's got a lot of HP, but not a lot of special defense. Overall, not a super meaningful turn. Rillaboom's gonna come back. I'm excited to show this interaction, which I was thinking about a minute ago. Weezing's gonna come in, going to get the neutralizing gas up. Garchomp will use Earthquake, and it will actually knock out the Weezing, so we won't get to see the interaction. Maybe we'll see it later in the set. Because now the neutralizing gas wears off, and Charizard's Heat Wave is actually just going to knock out the Ursaluna anyways. So Felix taking a lot of advantage in this just by hitting, by using those attacking moves. And Richard just gonna check out of game number 1. Very excellently played there by Felix, just saying, okay, I know this isn't ideal. I know that I want my Ninetales to be getting the sun up and to be getting those big heat waves off. But if I get the right Pokemon into the right position and just start hitting with the damage that I have, eventually this is going to get through, and a very solidly played game number 1 for Felix. See how Richard wants to respond here. Or if Felix wants to change anything up. Obviously that wasn't ideal in terms of how you want that game to start out, but it was still a pretty dominant victory, all things considered. Still had one Pokemon in the back that we didn't see. We presume that it was the Electros, but Richard can't know for sure. Obviously the Tyranitar would manage the... Actually, I check that, take that back. Tyranitar and Lycanroc, between the two of them, don't actually have a ground move. So they wouldn't be able to check the Weezing particularly better or worse than the previous setup did with the Ninetales and the Charizard. I feel like my concern on Richard's team is just there's kind of a lack of damage. Rillaboom really needs... It's Assault Vest, so it doesn't have the Miracle Seed or anything along those lines. Whimsicott isn't going to be a huge damage dealer. Incineroar is not going to be a huge damage dealer. And Weezing sure isn't going to do anything. So you're really relying on this Golden Go with the Nasty Plot and on this Ursaluna Blood Moon, which you really need to make sure that Ursaluna's not taking a lot of damage early on in the battle. The switch in from the Weezing into the Ursaluna to keep the Weezing standing, but made sure that the Ursaluna wasn't actually able to get any hits off all game. Probably not an ideal opener. See a bit of a switch up from Richard. See how Felix decides to change things for game number 2. We might potentially see the, one way or another, Felix does have to bring weather to a battle. So we'll see how the weather team goes. It's going to be the same lead for Felix, the Ninetales and the Charizard. It's going to be Incineroar and Golden Go this time on Richard's side. You have a teensy bit of a 50-50 right now. Again, both these Pokemon here, the Ninetales and the Charizard, are Terra Ghost. This Golden Go is Terra Dragon. Might have to pump that immediately to make sure that you don't get bowled over by 2 Heat Waves. Indeed, that is what we will see here. Terra Dragon on the Golden Go. Gonna make it resist those Heat Waves, thankfully for it. We'll see the Terra on Felix's side as well. We'll see which one decides to go for the Terra Ghost here. Probably the Charizard, indeed it is. It's threatening more damage, it has the Solar Power and the Choice Specs. Big damage out of this Charizard here in Sun. Can't underrate what it's going to get done here. Heat Wave misses the Incineroar, does still connect onto the Golden Go, doesn't do great damage. The Shadow Ball aimed into the Ninetales. Potentially missed the 50-50 there. Golden Go's still standing though, after the Heat Wave from Charizard, and the knockoff onto the Ninetales as well will clean that up. So one way or another, the Ninetales was taken out of the way, but see where this goes from here. It's going to be tough to bring in Garchomp here as an Earthquake user, because that Charizard is no longer immune to ground moves. It's still not super hurt by the ground moves, but not an ideal spot to be in. And that Golden Go as well does have just a big Shadow Ball to send Charizard's way, which would not be great for Felix. Although at the end of the day, Felix, I think, has a lot of the momentum here. Golden Go will protect this turn. That will almost certainly leave Charizard standing after this turn. Dragon Claw right into the Incineroar, gets some good damage down. Charizard's Heat Wave, if it connects onto Incineroar, should clean this up. Does connect, and does pick up the knockout onto the Incineroar. Does mean an extra turn of Solar Power chip onto the Charizard, as seen there. And another turn of Leftovers Recovery for the Golden Go. Now we'll see Rillaboom swap in. Cannot fake out onto the Charizard, obviously, and if it goes for a fake out onto the Garchomp, it'll take damage in return off of the Rough Skin. It will go for that, however. Take the damage for the damage in exchange for keeping Garchomp from moving this turn. And Golden Go's Shadow Ball should be able to knock out Charizard here. It's pretty big damage. If it was doing half damage to a Ninetales, that's a pretty specially bulky Pokemon. At neutral, absolutely dumping that Charizard. That leaves Felix on their last 2 Pokemon here in game number 2. Still has that game lead. 1 game in pocket. That Golden Go is really healing up. Gotta be a little concerned about that. And it is the Eelektross swapping in here. Remember, it does have Levitate. It's immune to the Earthquake. Probably not what the Garchomp really wants to go for here, but it is an option. It's the Eelektross' special Thunderbolt, Discharge, Giga Drain, and Flamethrower with the Assault Vest. Ursaluna swaps in here. Garchomp with the Dragon Claw into the Rillaboom does about half the HP there. Rillaboom with a Wood Hammer the other direction. Not a contact move, so won't oh, no, it does trigger Rough Skin. That, I didn't think it would do that. It also takes the recoil damage as well. And the Flamethrower in the sun, that'll pick up the knockout on the Rillaboom. And once again, Ursaluna switching in kind of an awkward spot. And here is the Golden Go switching back in here. See what the play is. Protect for Golden Go. Garchomp went for the Dragon Claw into the Golden Go, not going to get it. We'll see what Electros decides to go for. Most likely a Giga Drain. Oh no, it's slower actually. The Electros is pretty slow, and you can get pretty quick bears in there. So it'll pick up the knockout with the Hyper Voice. Does lose damage to the Life Orb chip and does go for the Giga Drain. In the grassy terrain, all of its moves are boosted. Oh man, the sun and the grassy terrain boosting these moves for Electros. Pretty funny. But now, not an ideal spot to be in if you are Felix. It's just a question. I mean, this is an Assault Vest Electros. It will heal off of Ursaluna with another Giga Drain into that slot if it does not go for the Protect. Golden Go goes for the Shadow Ball. We'll see how much you can take here if you are Electros. That's a pretty nice take. Blood Moon, big damage here, and that'll pick up the knockout. And Richard Salazar runs it back, wins game number 2. We'll head to game 3. Nice adaptation from Richard there. Definitely seeing, okay, I just did not have enough damage in game number 1. I'll keep Rillaboom with that Wood Hammer around. Did some really good damage to the Garchomp, but also just bringing the Golden Go, having that big Shadow Ball, picking up the knockout in game number 1. Very solid job there. That's a good point. I just received word that perhaps because of the Levitate, the Giga Drain wasn't actually boosted because of Levitate on the terrain. Thank you, Jesus. From afar. Couldn't be here today, but still providing very important work to the commentary booth. That is interesting. I didn't even think of that. Many interactions to consider, but if Weezing was there, then it would have boosted the damage. This is a real thinker of a game. See what the adaptation might be here. Again, we do have to keep in mind it's probably not worth it to bring the Tyranitar and the Lycanroc. We'll see Tyranitar later today, don't you worry. Plenty of people bringing that guy around. But probably not worth it to bring it into the most likely Incineroar lead. But the 4 in the last battle from Richard, probably ideal for this matchup. Same for Felix as well. We'll just have to see which side plays it better in game number 3. This is just round 1. A lot of people done, but a lot of people still playing. We have 46 people here today. Real packed crowd. Game number 3, Richard and Felix. It's going to be Garchomp Charizard on Felix's end. It's going to be Incineroar Golden Go. This Garchomp does have Clear Amulet, so not going to have to worry about the Intimidate regardless. This puts Golden Go in an immediate kind of trapped situation. If it doesn't protect turn 1, which it probably should protect turn 1, it will have to deal with either a big Heat Wave that knocks it out or a big Dragon Claw that knocks it out if it terastallizes. So a nice way for Felix to gain a little bit of momentum, but you still have to keep up that momentum. I think you have to make some really aggressive switch call here. No switches. It's going to be the Terastal onto the Golden Go. This is, I guess the easiest out for Richard is to use that Fake Out onto the Garchomp. Keep that Golden Go standing, because it won't be able to be hit by the Dragon Claw here. Excuse me, gotta sneeze. The Shadow Ball into the Charizard, we'll see how much this does. A little bit under half, does drop the Spadef, so it will drop to the next one. Heat Wave misses, the Incineroar again. Does mediocre damage to that guard. Ooh, on the critical hit, decent damage to the Golden Go. That is a rough turn 1 for Felix. Both the special defense drop, that means the Charizard will not take another one of those, and the miss onto the Incineroar. Wouldn't have done a lot of damage anyways, but still not ideal. Golden Go's gonna get on out of there. And Rillaboom will swap in here. This could be a little bit dangerous. as that Rillaboom could eat a big Heat Wave. Garchomp will go for the Earthquake. It will be reduced by the grassy terrain. That is important to note. That is a big interaction here. Heat Wave does come out. Nearly knocks out the Rillaboom, doesn't pick up the knockout. Does some decent damage on the Incineroar, and the knockoff from the Incineroar not actually going to knock out the Charizard. And that means the Choice Specs are gone. It can protect now. Could also go for Iron Tail. I'm going to have to ask Felix after this game what the Iron Tail's for. That's a little bit of an interesting one. I usually prefer Scorching Sands. In any case, this Garchomp does, even in grassy terrain, it will do quite a bit of damage to the Rillaboom and the Incineroar here. I mean, based on the percentage of HP that they have remaining, some good damage to these remaining Pokemon. We're going to see the Terra onto the Charizard, going to let it get one more hit off. Not going to be able to fake out it here, at least, on the Rillaboom's fake out turn. Did go for the Garchomp anyways. Will it drop to the rough skin damage? That is actually a good question. It does. It does drop to the rough skin damage. And Garchomp will flinch, but Charizard with the Heat Wave misses the Incineroar for a third time. And the Incineroar knockoff will pick up the knockout on the Charizard. 3 misses from the Charizard on the Incineroar this set. And I believe both players are not down to their final 2. Golden Ghost swapped out. So it's Felix is actually not down to the last 2 either. Both of them just lost their first Pokemon. It's a bit of a slow one here. Ursaluna swaps in. And Ninetales as well. Ninetales not packing the Solar Beam. It's Heat Wave, Fire Blast, Protect, and Dark Pulse. So Fire Blast would probably be its best damage against the Ursaluna here. It could go for the Heat Wave. It's Scarfed, so it'll go first. Fire Blast, it misses the Ursaluna. Another miss for Felix. Garchomp goes for a Dragon Claw. Does some okay damage to Ursaluna there. Hyper Voice, that'll do some pretty nice chunk to both of those Pokemon. And the Incineroar knockoff into the Ninetales, that'll pick up the knockout. Brutal misses for Felix here in game number 3. Ninetales gets on out of there. Down to the last 2 for Felix. And it is the Eelektross one more time. It is boosted by that sun for its Flamethrower, although probably will not want to use that Flamethrower all that much. Can go for a big Giga Drain into the Ursaluna if it's able to find the opportunity. Garchomp goes for the Dragon Claw. I'm a little surprised by that choice, actually. Garchomp will drop now. Hyper Voice doesn't do all that much to the Eelektross, and it will get knockoffed, lose its Assault Vest. Goes for the Giga Drain onto Ursaluna. Doesn't get too much HP back, though, is the problem. I think he would have picked up the knockout. The Eelektross would have picked up the knockout onto the Ursaluna from pretty high HP based on what we saw in the last battle. Without the Dragon Claw, could have gone for something else, maybe like maybe even an Earthquake or something to hit the Incineroar, because now getting dicey here. This turn should win it for Richard. A Shadow Ball should probably be enough without the Assault Vest anymore. Shadow Ball does come through, and it picks up the knockout with a critical hit. Richard Salazar with the 2-1 victory in game number 1. a bit of Pokemon being played in that last game there. But a win is a win for Richard, and Felix still with an opportunity to make a run in this tournament. 6 rounds of Swiss, still plenty of time left. What a fun one we had there in game number 1. Still a ton of Pokemon left to play. We're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere.